the one thing I wanted to key in on, he was talking in the full context, right, of this interview. They were talking about, well, what happens when you go to a house where they actually have a really nice house and they have a TV that's bigger than your TV, yet obviously the kids don't have beds, and it's easy to be judgmental. Mm-hmm. It's easy to be pissed off or whatever your emotions you have when you're presumably there to like, wait a minute, you're going to judge, right? That's just the way we are. Mm-hmm. We're going to have some sort of reaction to like, how come these people can't buy a bed? They can buy this or buy. And I think he's just saying, don't worry about that. Focus on the kid. Focus on why you're there. You're there because they don't have a bed, and you don't need to judge. You don't know what everybody's story is and whatever the circumstances. So I mentioned that as a primer to say, have you been in that situation on deliveries where you found yourself, this is interesting. I'm going to keep my comments to myself here, but this is interesting.
You know, I really haven't. I will say that almost every home that I'm in, I notice there's typically a big TV and maybe not much else. And there's typically some smartphones and maybe not much else. And I mean, I have worked with the underserved for the last 10 years, so I'm used to that.
Yeah.
So for me, I already know what to expect. And I think many, many people in this community, if you're not working with the underserved actively, you're very shielded from what they're going through.
Yeah.
So the other thing that I'll say is, yeah, they might have a big TV and a phone, but there's nothing else there. Like, they'll have the rattiest couch you've ever seen, and there's no other furniture to speak of. Mm-hmm. So that really hasn't been my experience. But again, we're not there to judge. If they don't have a bed, there's a reason they don't have a bed. And again, it is never the child's fault that they don't have a bed. They didn't make that decision.
Right.
It all comes down to priorities. And all we can do is be there for the kids. We're not too worried about those parents and whatever they're doing, but I have not seen that in Huntsville.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we have a lot of single moms. We have some single dads, and probably one of my favorite deliveries was the sweetest man. He was a grandfather, and he was not an old man. He was maybe in his 50s. He was raising 4 children that were his daughters, who was suffering from a drug addiction.
Yeah.
He had these beautiful twin girls. They were, I think, a year old, and then I believe 2 other kiddos. And just, he had an immaculate home. And that's something I'm not used to. There's a lot of, not good housekeeping that goes on, and that's something that I know a lot of people judge about. But it all goes back to home training, right? Like, how my grandmother kept a beautiful home. Both of my grandmothers did. Mm-hmm. I grew up that you keep house. You cook your own food, you clean, you do your laundry every week at least, and that's how you live. But if nobody ever taught you that, then that's not how you're living, right? So again, I've worked with the underserved for a long time, so I really try not to judge. And for me, I also don't get too caught up in that whole, the problem is so much bigger than I can ever do, because, and I think it's because of my faith too. Like, God put me on this earth for a reason, and I can't solve everybody's problems, but every little one that I help with, that's a gift to them and to me. And that's what I can do with my time. So if I'm making some useful decisions with my time, then I did well for today.
Yeah.
And, that's all you can do. You're one person, and we're one organization, and there's a lot of fabulous organizations in this town, and we're filling a need. And I hope we're here for many, many years, but I hope that we have less requests as the years go on, that we are really fulfilling that need. But we'll just see how it all plays out.